Hey everyone. I've just been having a really nice discussion with a friend of mine over FaceTime, and I wanted to record this to share a little something that we talked about. Because we've been having a really nice day. Both of us were sitting outside and just kind of having a slow afternoon. And as often is the case with this friend of mine, she and I got around to more, serious, deeper subjects, which is what I love, and that's what I really enjoy talking about. Usually with my friends, I think, occasionally it's nice to have lighter conversations, but just in general to talk about life and stuff. I think it's so nice to be able to have those moments and those friendships where you can do that. And we got around to talking about something that's been on my mind for a little while, and it's something that my OCD has kind of taught me. And something that I've been learning through doing through having done my therapy and just in my exercises and things that I use to try to combat some of the thoughts and the compulsions that I typically have. And so for me, that is that we can only control ourselves, right? And I know that sounds so simple, and obviously, people talk about it all the time. But one, learning about something, I always say, is completely different from experiencing it yourself and actually feeling it. And I think I've reached the point where I do fully feel that in my day-to-day life. And, there's so much freedom and also power, I think, in something like that, especially for me in regards to my OCD, because it's, for me, having my obsessions, there are times where part of my compulsion, because one of my obsessions is kind of around these ideas of contamination and things being, dirty, which is something that is, very mental. It's usually something that isn't necessarily dirty, but for me it is, and I avoid touching things, or I need to wash my hands, or whatever the case may be. And there are times where other people will, touch said object, and for me that is very anxiety inducing, because my immediate thought is I can't go near this person because they've touched this thing, they're contaminated. But then also there's this idea of I just wish they would wash their hands, and that's kind of the initial response, is just go do this thing. And for me with my fiance, there are times where he'll touch something that again is dirty in my mind, and I'm can you just go wash your hands, it'll make me feel better. But one, having him engage in the compulsion with me essentially, or aiding that, is not helping me in any way. It's just furthering my mindset of I can be reassured by doing a compulsion or having somebody else assist me in it, And I've learned, through my therapy, that's completely the opposite of what you want to do. Exposure response prevention therapy, ERP therapy, is all about trying to avoid engaging in the compulsion, and kind of sitting with that discomfort and pushing the boundaries of it a little bit so that eventually it fades out over time. But ultimately, I can't control what he or anybody else does, whether it's touching something or, asking them to do this thing. Obviously you can ask somebody for something, but it's not going to help me in any way. And the only thing that I can control in this situation is my mindset and how I'm approaching whatever is causing me anxiety, whatever my obsession is. I can only control how I react in that moment. And so a lot of my therapy was also around doing a lot of mindfulness, and trying to ground myself in the present moment. And through that, I've learned, you can only control your mindset, yourself, in a situation, and that's something that's filtered into every aspect of my life. I can only control how I am in a certain situation. If somebody's doing something that's making me upset, I can only react accordingly. I can't force them to do anything different. And for me, that has been so freeing, because it takes so much weight off my shoulders knowing I can't control them, and I shouldn't bother to try. I'm wasting my time and effort. I can only control me. But it also gives me so much power in that, because again, I can control myself. I can control how I respond to a certain situation. And so I think it's interesting for me having something that like my OCD has kind of taught me, or I suppose working through and trying to, live with my OCD, something that it's taught me that I can then carry over into my everyday life. And I just think that's something that has been really eye-opening and kind of a big game changer for me to really reach that feeling of I can only do so much. As somebody who tries so hard to get control, and as OCD tries to make you feel like you need to regain this control, you need to listen to it. Ultimately, like you're not your thoughts. That's another big thing I've learned through my experience with trying to live with my OCD and going to therapy for it, is that you're not your thoughts. And OCD is going to try to make you feel like you need to listen to it. It seems urgent. That's the thing. It makes every obsession, every thought you feel to seem urgent. It needs to be listened to. And like, not all thoughts are equal. Not all thoughts are important. Not all thoughts are, anything to say about you. Intrusive thoughts are not saying anything about, you specifically. And in learning all of that, I think it's just been a very calming bit of knowledge, I suppose, to have, but really the experience of reaching that point in my life where I actually feel that has been really nice, because I can only do so much. I'm one person and I can only control me. And I think the biggest difference you can make, the biggest asset you have to yourself, is being able to control yourself and how you respond, your mindset. If you look at things from a more positive mindset, or whatever the case might be, like, you can add so much joy into your life. But when you try to hold on to things and control situations, like, you're only going to wind up more frustrated, because it's a futile attempt. You can't do it. And it's just something I wanted to share with you, because it has definitely made a big difference in my life and has alleviated quite a bit of anxiety, and just really opened up a lot of opportunity for me, and made me feel a lot more capable of not only living with OCD, but also just living my life. And so I share that with you, and I hope that you are enjoying a nice day, and hopefully have gotten in some beautiful nature and outdoors. I'm gonna go back to enjoying that now, but just something I wanted to share. Take care. I hope it helps you.